Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. I'm Ku. I'm the country head of AECC Global Malaysia. While we are waiting for everyone to come into this room, we have some nice pictures, slides for everyone to see. This is the pictures shared by Plymouth University. So that's the surrounding of the university. So, okay, so as the number growing, can you, that is, just do a bit of housekeeping. So at the bottom, if you wish to ask questions, please feel free to leave your questions on the Q&A box. Yeah, not the chat box, yeah, on the Q&A box. And so if you have any, we will be clarify all your questions, all your doubts towards the end of the presentation. This presentation is expected to, total duration is about 35 to 40 minutes or 45. And then we'll open up to the floor for Q&A questions. Yeah, so I can see the number is still coming in. So we'll wait for another 1 or 2 minutes. And can I know on the chat box if everyone can open up the chat box, yeah, not Q&A, yeah, now. So can you please say hi to us and let us know whether you can hear me clearly? Just put 1 if you can hear me clearly. Can you just put 1? Thank you so much. Thank you. So hope everyone have actually had your dinner. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you everyone. So I think we are around, we have about 1 minute. So may I know whether Anne is around? Because Anne, do you mind to let me know whether when everyone is in, let me know whether I can start the webinar. You can leave me a message on the chat box. We have about 48 now. Okay, we'll wait for a few more minutes before we'll start the presentation. Now today, good evening to all the attendees and good morning to Daniel. Daniel is the regional manager from Plymouth University. So today he'll be sharing with us what are the tips, you know, to write a good personal statement for Ucas. So personal statements are very, very important for your university application. So if you are currently studying your pre-university or you're currently doing your diploma or year 1, intend to apply to the UK, then a personal statement is your first step, yeah? And it's very important to get it right in order to get attention from the university to actually, you know, offer you a place. Now, we have 51 attendees now. And am I good to go? Sure. Okay, cool. So Daniel, maybe we can stop the pictures. So I hope everyone have a bit of pictures, a bit of tour about Plymouth University. And so perhaps I'll pass the mic to Daniel. Daniel, I'll pass the mic to you. And I'll come back to you with the Q&A questions on the chat box, on the Q&A box later. Over to you, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Ku. I'm going to get started right away. As has been introduced, I am indeed Daniel. I work at the University of Plymouth's International Office here in Southwest England. I'm going to give you as much of an overview as I can today. Yes, we're going to focus on personal statements, but not only that. Hopefully you'll see why when I get started, which I'm going to do right about now. Just wanted to check a thumbs up from Ku that you can see my new presentation with the world map in the clouds. Yes, don't believe the marketing guy. The clouds did really not make the world map above the campus. The campus is real, the clouds were Photoshop. Anyway, so what I'm going to do today is run through this presentation. It's going to be about preparing to apply and then indeed applying to UK university. I'm going to look about UK University particular, not actually University of Plymouth, but I may use examples from Plymouth just to illustrate. So the first thing I need to cover today briefly was just a little bit of a reminder or a refresher or an encouragement as to why you might be considering going to university in the UK. There are many good reasons. Then we need to think about preparation prior to application, because preparation prepares you for success rather than just jumping in and applying. So I'm going to go quite a bit of focus on that because it's really going to help you write that personal statement better. Then we'll go into the application itself, dealing mostly with Ucas, as Ku mentioned. And within that, there will be this mini focus, this focus point on the personal statement, because I do know that that does cause a lot of concern for some students, or they attach so much importance to it. And of course, it is important, but I want to enthuse and encourage you as well as inform you, because actually it's your best chance to really tell us about yourselves. So it's a really good thing to get right and to actually enjoy doing. And at the end, as mentioned, there will be a Q&A session. And that Q&A is really whatever you want to ask. You can ask it even now in the Q&A, not the chat, in the Q&A, but I'll probably deal with it at the end. That's probably going to help things. Okay, let's get started. Why UK? Well, if you're considering the UK, you might already know that there's lots of good reasons why you might want to come and study here. Perhaps one of the main ones, our excellence in research and teaching. In the UK, we're really renowned for what we do at research level and how that feeds into our teaching at master and bachelor degree. So it's good quality. There are very high completion rates at universities in the UK, and that's different from some other countries' university systems. In other countries, they may accept more students, but not so many of them will graduate. In the UK, it's usually high 80% or 90+% of the students who start their degree will successfully graduate with their degree and on time. That's good, whether you're a student or a parent, because that's kind of a good, how can I say, lowered risk factor. It's a good investment because you know you're more likely to succeed. That leads into the next point. Our graduates are very employable, whether that be in the UK or indeed around the world, because we have the international repute of our degrees. Our degrees have value around the world. We have a tutor system. The tutor system is very important. It allows, even in a bigger university, for some personalized one-to-one interaction that tailors your needs to the program and vice versa. We have a blend of theory and practical. It's not just about the piece of paper, it's what you can do with it and the skills that it enables you to have. So again, that links into employability too. Quality assurance is very important in the UK, and unlike many parts of the world, in the UK university system, all the universities are vetted and checked in a standardized way so that you can be assured that we have to provide the quality that we claim to provide. Again, that's a good risk-free investment for you. And finally, and most importantly, so I put a circle around it, selective entry. That's an important thing that you should be interested in and pay attention to when considering the UK. Why? Well, we don't accept every student who applies. We only want the ones that we want. And that, of course, links to our high completion rates and our employability and our high quality. We're trying to get successful candidates. And that's why we have to pay attention to the application process and the personal statement, because that's all linked with that selective entry point. So let's delve into this preparation, because that's what you really need to do. And I wanted to deal with my previous moment there. And I want you to think, well, what do we have to actually think about? And I'm going to throw some shapes at you. It's Friday. I feel like shapes. Friday's shapes will be these shapes. Why? I don't know. It's Friday. You'll see. Okay, so here's another shape, and here's a small but big question. Why? Probably the biggest question of all, right? Why? Or more particularly, why is it important, or why is it so important to do so much research before applying? Why is Daniel making me do all this before we even applied? I thought we were going to talk about personal statement today. Well, I'm not making you do this, but I'm strongly advising that you do. Because if you don't do the research and you just apply last minute and you just apply kind of without looking or preparing, you probably won't get accepted. Remember, we talked about selected entry in the UK. The universities are looking for who they want. And if you don't prepare, we'll know in your application that you didn't prepare. It will be obvious to us. So we probably won't accept you, or maybe worse, You might be accepted, but you might not like the program you've been accepted to do. And you might then spend at least 1 year or maybe 3 or more years doing something which is not right for you, and that would be silly. So research is very important in a selective entry system. And let's delve into this. What are British universities looking for? Well, the three-word phrase we use a lot in our job is a good fit. We want a student who's a good fit. That means a student who's well suited to the program of study, both what the program is and how it's taught. And well suited really means that we think that you will succeed in the program if you join it, and that you will enjoy it and you will benefit from it. And actually, you as a student want a good fit too. You want a good fit program at a good fit university, something that suits you too. So this phrase, a good fit, is very important in selective university entrance situations, which really is the UK. Okay, so let's delve into some basic points that all prepare you towards the personal statement and the application. Very, very obvious here. We're going to highlight the key bits here. Please research your options. Pause for dramatic effect. Your options, not your mum's, not your best friend's, not even what your teacher might say. You can take it all into account, but do remember that you are going to be sat in class, you are going to be doing the work and the exams or essays, not them. So it's got to be your options, plural. Keep your options open as far as you can, at least when you're choosing at first. Please focus on the degree program before the university. That's very important for United Kingdom. Semester 1, week 1, day 1 or day 2, you are starting that major and you're going to do it probably for 3 years. So make sure you're actually looking at the programs, not just the institution first. That may be different if you're applying to the US, for example. Now, please also focus on degree content, not just the title. A media degree at University A could be very different from a media degree at University B and C and D and E, for example. The words in the title may hide the different contents. So look into the university web pages to see the modules offered. And please start early, which is probably what you're doing, as long as we're talking about entry for September 2022 or beyond, because the question I hate the most, so please don't ask it, is what is the deadline? I'm going to mention deadlines today because I have to, but I don't like them. Because what is the deadline, to me, means how late can I leave it? That doesn't sound very organized, and it's going to be fraught with risk if you leave things late. But also, of course, it takes time to find out information and then digest it and see how you feel about it. So starting early wins the race. What not to do now? Very, very easy. Well, one thing not to do is don't let your robot feed your fish, like in this picture. Don't worry, it was just a marketing shot. The robot did not feed the fish. No fish was harmed in that photo. Anyway, what else you should not do is this. Do not bury your head in the sand. Do not think, I can think about it later. I don't really have to do this. There's more important things on TV. Please don't bury your head in the sand. This is your opportunity. This is your opportunity for your future. Probably the best opportunity you've had to date, because now you're starting to become an adult with your own options and your own priorities. Seize that, embrace it, be enthused, and don't bury your head in the sand. Dive into this research. It will help you. So what other things might you need to think about as you're preparing to put your application together, including that personal statement? Well, think about degree types. You may have heard of some of these, a BA and a BSc and a BEng. But what do they really mean and how different are they? Well, for example, you might see at one institution a BA in business, but another one might offer a BSc in business. Are they different? They might be. You'll have to really check the modules of those institutions to be sure. My guess, sometimes you'll find that a BA in business might not have so much mathematics content, whereas a BSc might have more finance, economics, and maths content within it in a BSc. Maybe, but not always. So check that and think about your maths interest and ability. Similarly, a Bachelor of Science in Engineering might be different from a BEng in Engineering in Robotics. Again, it might be down to maths. So the Bachelor of Science might have lower maths content than the BEng might have higher maths content in robotics, and the BEng might also have more professional accreditations attached to it. But again, look at the detail. That's the only way to be sure, but think about that. Think also about whether you want to do a single honours degree in one major or a combined one in two. I did two, but that meant extra work. I did 75% of one and 75% of another. And even my poor maths tells me that's 150% of a degree. So I did a degree and a half, and it took longer, but it was right for me. You might think about a placement option or work internship year, which again might add a year, maybe make it 4 years, or a study abroad option makes it 4 years. That's what I did. Think about these things because that all feeds into what you're going to eventually apply to and then how you're going to write that application. But also it's not just about what. We've just talked about titles and awards, and I've told you about looking into the modules to find the content that suits you, but it's also how you study. By the way, here's a picture on the right of us blowing up a big bin full of ping pong balls. Our chemistry lecturer decided to explode a bin full of ping pong balls, and we filmed it in super slow-mo, and you can go and find it on YouTube if you want. For what reason? I don't know. It was probably a Friday then too. So lectures, seminars, and tutorials. These are the things you've probably heard of and expect when you go to university. Lectures, seminars, tutorials, big, medium, small types of class. And the smaller they are, the more interactive they are. Yes, sure, these are some of the shapes and sizes of classes you'll expect. Ah, here's our first shape. I told you we'd see one. But it's not just that. Degree programs are taught and assessed in various ways in tests and presentations, exams, field trips, practical research, final project, otherwise known as a dissertation or a thesis. You might have that bolted on internship that I mentioned in the last slide, or even the study abroad one. And of course, all important self-study. So these are the kind of things that mesh together to form how you are taught and assessed in that program. And this is one example at one university, but another university might teach the same program, but it looks like this, with more emphasis on some things, less emphasis on other things, and other things just not there at all. And another institution might do it differently again. My point is, if you're really good at one type of study or really bad at one type of study, or you prefer things, then try to find that out. The web pages will tell you, the course programs will tell you. There's a lot of detail to get into, but this is important if you're thinking of applying and spending 3 or more years at a place. You want to think about that. By the way, the self-study piece is not just that one thing. Of course, it knits everything together. That's why university libraries in the UK are really good, and ours is too. Ours is open 24/7, which is quite handy. But that's because self-study is so important wherever you go. So I'm trying to give you as much as I can to advise you on what you need to think about, right? But I haven't really talked about you yet. And I can't, because I can't even see you, and I've never met you. But you've met you, and you've probably seen you, and maybe you look like this, I don't know. But here are some really obvious questions, right? Super, super obvious. So obvious, you might not have ever asked them. So maybe sit down with a pen and piece of paper, not now, but on Sunday or whenever you want to, and write these questions down and answer them. What subjects do I like? What study activities do I like? Don't ask your mum, don't ask your best friend, don't ask your teacher. You can check with them later, but before you ask them, write your own list. Second list might be the same answers, might be slightly different. What subjects am I good at? What study activities am I good at? I love all things astrophysics. I think space and all that stuff is amazing, but I'm terrible at maths and I'm terrible at physics. So there is a difference there, right? So you got to think about these things. And then, of course, what careers would I like? If you know, and therefore what studies must I complete? Obviously, a medicine candidate who wants to be a doctor must study medicine, architecture, for architects, and engineering for engineers, etc. There's some obvious ones there, but if you don't know, don't worry. Most graduate degrees don't specify which degree you have to have. So follow what you want. But of course, if there are key careers, pay attention to that. So they're very easy questions, but take the time to ask and think about it. Maybe compare your list with what other people think of you later. But you also need to think about other important factors. This is all preparing you to apply better. I'm getting there to the personal statement, I promise. Entry requirements of any institution for any program. The location of that place, is it in which part of the country? Which part of the town or city is it in? Is it a city campus where it's in the city but kind of divided up? Is it in a campus further away from the center? Or is it one that's combined, like Plymouth, which is a city center campus? What kind of clubs and facilities does it have, either for study or for play? What is the accommodation like? What, of course, is the cost? You may even want to consider the weather. That may be important to you. I don't know that it should be if coming to the UK, because it's always sunny in the UK. Don't believe the marketing guy. But then here comes that second shape. I told you it was coming. Here comes the triangle. Why is there a triangle on the screen? Well, I wanted it to represent all the degree programs that are possible at the top, which on Ucas I think is like 20 or 30,000, something crazy. Huge number of degree programs possible at all the British universities. And that's the top of the triangle. And the very, very bottom is the 5 maximum to which you will apply. So all these questions and all these points and all these things I've been asking you to think about and ask yourself about and research about institutions are helping you to narrow things down. And it's very easy if you start with the program. That's my top advice. Program and entry requirements. Those should be, in my experience, the first 2 things that you use to start narrowing down. Because very easily then, you're going to throw away a lot of these numbers and get towards a more manageable number for more comparison. And then you can compare whatever you want about cost or location, or does it have your favorite type of coffee or whatever. I don't care. But you really should start with programs, and that's helping you narrow down. But Daniel, you said you were going to talk about personal statements. I really am, I promise you. I am just trying to say that if you get all this kind of prep right, then when you get to the personal statement and the application, it'll make sense and it'll be easier. So ucas.com, that's really where it's all at. That's where you submit your applications, and you're actually really under an advantage here, an excellent advantage, if you make yourselves aware of ucas.com nice and early. It looks a bit like this. You can actually search for all those thousands of courses, and all the different British institutions are all there. So it's better than Google, in my opinion, because it just paints a much more broad and open picture, and then you can interrogate it as you wish. And you can get advice from Ucas about little video tutorials about applications and processes and applying for certain subjects. It's a really good idea, and it talks about student life as well. So I can't advise you enough, really, to get looking at Ucas. It really, really helps. It's where you apply, and it's where you prep too. Now, here's a timeline of application just to set the scene. We are here and now, and that's where you're researching and beginning to think about choosing courses. You don't have to choose it right now. I also don't know which stage you guys are at, because I can't see you, and I don't know you. But the point is, in a typical cycle for 2022 entry, about now is where it all really starts. And then there are some key deadlines. Remember, I don't like deadlines. I like things to be done ahead of deadlines. And your counselor in your school might give you an earlier deadline anyway, because they might need to do things, or your agency, AECC Global, might need you to do something earlier to get their work done before the application is submitted. But of course, I have to tell you about the Ucas deadlines, because you'll see them on the website. There's an early deadline of 15th of October if you're applying to any university for medicine or dentistry or veterinary science, or if you're applying to Oxford or Cambridge universities to study anything. But for the rest of us, Happy New Year comes along, and 15th of January is the Ucas deadline. That's for University of Plymouth, all of our programs, except we offer medicine and we offer dentistry, so they of course have that earlier deadline. Now you can apply after that. We won't talk about that. There's different ways of doing that, but let's stick to the Ucas plan, because it is far better to get it done earlier. Once you have applied, we'll have a look at your applications and we will make offers to you. Now, you can only apply to 5 universities. You saw that 5 in the triangle earlier. That's the maximum you can apply to. So institution A, B, C, D, E, and 1 program at each, or other combinations. You could do 2 different programs at 1 university, etc. But you're only going to have 5, and those 5 will decide whether they wish to accept you. If they accept you conditionally, it means you've still got some grades to achieve because you're still in school. If you're unconditionally accepted, maybe that's because you've already finished school and they know there's nothing missing, so they can make you unconditional. Now, they might reject you, I suppose, but I have to tell you that. But if you've done the preparation properly, if you've really researched the programs and the suitability to you and the entry requirements, you've probably got 5 really sensible, good fit applications I doubt a reject would happen. By the way, we might interview, some universities do for some programs, we do for some of our programs. That usually happens in the new year period. And yes, it's usually Zoom or Skype. Then after that, you make your decisions. You might have 5 offers, but you can't keep them all. You can keep 2, a firm, which is your first choice, and an insurance, which is your second choice. Please make sure your second choice is your insurance, so they've offered you lower grades to get in. So if you don't hit the top grades, you can still get into option 2. And then you decline the other 3 places and they go back into a big pot, okay? And that pot sits there waiting until results time. And then if you or other students don't get the offers they needed to get into their first 2 choices, then that pot is called the clearing process, is where you go see what other places there are. But like I said, if you've prepared well, you won't need clearing because you'll have picked good fit application programs and you'll get offers and you'll get in. And in September, which isn't a real month, September means September or October, off you will fly. Now, into the application, obviously you have to put your personal details. Please have a sensible email address. My advice is your name and as close to that as possible, nothing too silly. I've seen some very embarrassing email addresses on applications before. Please put your program university courses on there. You have to choose the 5 things you want to apply to. Your qualifications, those you've achieved, plus any that are still going. Your personal statement, more about that in a moment. And a reference from your teacher, please, a relevant reference from a relevant teacher. It's really important because if you're applying to engineering, but your French teacher is writing your reference because they like you the best, it's a shame. The people reading it think, why did the physics teacher not write the reference? You might be asked to submit a portfolio for an art or design program or a media. You might have to write an additional essay or short story if you're applying for creative writing. You might have the interview, as I mentioned. Those things won't be on the application form, of course, but I'm letting you know that they might happen. And that's another reason to apply way before the deadline. It buys you more time to do these kind of things. The sooner you apply, the sooner you have your offers. So let's focus on that personal statement. Finally, he's got there. After all this time, we get to the headline, the main piece. Well, yes, I took my time, but I'm trying to show you about how much leads into the personal statement. If you just sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and you've done no preparation, seriously, what are you going to write? So above all, we're looking for passion for the program, not the university. It's worth paying attention. 1 personal statement on Ucas goes to all 5 recipient universities that you've applied to. If you mention a university name, you might have 1 happy university, although they might be a bit confused why you've named them. And you'll have 4 certainly unhappy universities who think, well, this student is not right for us. So passion for the program, and that's why it's important to really understand what you're applying for. If you've applied to 5 very, very different programs, like French in 1, biology in another one, robotics in another one, dance in another one, and English in another one, how are you going to write a personal statement that suits all of them? I don't think it's possible. If it is possible, then you really should be applying to study creative writing because you must be an amazing writer. The point being, if you've done that sensible choosing of programs, they don't have to be identical, but they're around a theme. That means your 1 essay explaining your passion for that theme will, of course, make sense to all. Now, we need to talk about relevance in a personal statement. That's very different from some other personal statement systems I've worked in. I've worked for American University for 8 years. I've now been at University of Plymouth for 13 years, so 21 years in this industry. And I've read personal statements from both systems and indeed other systems too. And the biggest difference for the UK is that we want much more relevance. Remember, semester 1, week 1, you're doing that major straight away. So we need to know that it's right for you and you are right for it. Add your relevant studies, relevant extracurricular activities, projects, relevant personal qualities, relevant career exploration if you have it. Not everyone can, but if you do, shadowing, work experience, put it in, but show what you've learned from all of that stuff. Students often make the mistake of just going this, a great big list. I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, I've done that. But what did you learn prove to us that you've connected that piece, prove to us that you've understood how it's helped you, and prove to us that you understand that it makes you a good fit student for these programs. Why so much about relevance? Well, quite simply this: you've only got 4,000 characters. You've got a very, very concise amount of space to get your life history out there. So you don't have time or space for your life history. It has to be relevant. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I don't really care if you're captain of the ultimate Frisbee team. It might be fun, I like Frisbee too, but really, is it going to be relevant to what you're telling the person who's reading this essay, who also probably teaches the program that you're applying to? They want, yes, we want rounded and versatile and exciting and diverse people, of course we do, but more important, we want to know that you're ready for this program. So with 4,000 characters, that means letters, not words, spaces, punctuation. You have to be concise. You will have to edit it, so write it once. The biggest challenge for the really good prepared students is the editing bit, because they want to say so much, but they only have 4,000 characters. That's why being relevant only is important. Do it early so you've got time to take a break, come back a few days later, read it again. You'll have a different mindset and you can edit more easily or prioritize better. Please spell check. But be careful with spell check, because if you use spell check and spell check tells you that that word is fine, it might be fine, but it might not be the right word. And I've read many an essay where the word is a word, so spell check didn't make it wrong, but it was the wrong word. You can imagine maybe what that might mean. So the best way to do that, I think, is to print it and read it aloud. Literally read every word that you see, because then you'll realize, oh, I left a word out and it's an important word, you know, things like that. Get someone else to check it, preferably a native English speaker, if possible, would be sensible. And needless to say, never copy another statement. The temptation on the internet is to borrow things that are already there, but the software in Ucas will find that and catch it. So just letting you know. So these are the points about personal statement. That's why it's got to be relevant, because you've got so little space to do it. But again, be infused. You don't have to write pages and pages. You just have to find out what's really you. And to summarize, to sort of sum up where we are with this, the point really is, it's about the research. The personal statement is something that we can do. And I've looked at countless personal statements, work in progress, and I've done workshops on these things with students in groups. But really, that's almost too late to be doing that, because if I didn't help a student, or if a student hasn't been helped or helped themselves to prepare, then the personal statement is very difficult to judge, because we don't know where it's coming from. But you will. So research based on programs, think about study styles and entry criteria. Yes, choose your institutions as well, based on campuses and locations and cost, of course, but never start there. Always start with the programs. When you're narrowing down, make sure it's on your terms, on what is important to you. And then you'll know that all 5 that you're applying to will have a very sensible personal statement that really does link and prove your passion to the program, your suitability to be a good fit student in all 5 of those institutions. And then if you've done that, you'll probably get accepted by 4 or even all 5 of them. And you think, well, that's no good, I can only go to 1. Sure, but if you've got 5 offers, you've got 5 cards to choose, and that's great. And you'll end up keeping whichever 2 are the best for you. And I'm sure then you'll go on and succeed, but also, as I mentioned earlier, not only get into the institution, but graduate from it too, and enjoy the journey as well. That's all I'm going to say about the process. I know it's been a bit of a whirlwind whistle-stop tour on a Friday night your time as well. So well done you for hopefully staying with me. I know it's been a lot to take on board, but remember that the key points about passion and planning and program, it's all about the P's, the passion, the planning, the program, and P for Plymouth as well. So just a little overview of the University of Plymouth, just so you can know a little bit about who we are. This is not my focus today, of course, but you can see where we are on the map, 3 hours from London, so quite far from London, but that makes us really cheap to live, accommodation's cheap. And all the programs you could probably imagine, some great rankings this year just came out as well, some amazing facilities, quite a big university, 19,000 students. That's all I need to say.
Well, thank you, Daniel. Dear attendees, parents and students, this is the best time to actually put your questions on the Q&A box. so that we can actually get Daniel to answer your questions. I'm pretty sure some of you will have some questions to maybe want to ask Daniel. This is the best time to ask someone who is currently based in the UK. Now, while waiting for any attendees to actually put down your questions, Daniel, I do have some questions for you on behalf of one of my students who couldn't make it today. So, okay, so we know that currently, the COVID situation in the UK is quite good in the sense that vaccines have been rolled out pretty well. Do you know offhand how many percent of the students or how many percent of the population in the UK has been vaccinated?
Yes, I'm on the case somewhat with that. I don't check it every day because every day is stuff to do, but it's in the 60+% of the adult population has now had both doses, and 80+% of the population, I think it's nearly 90% of the adult population, has had at least one dose of the vaccine. And that's important because that means that now people of like age 18 are being offered vaccines. So my nephew, who is 18, has just had his first dose. So that's really important. And that's why the UK, the universities in the UK, are announcing and reminding international incoming students that they too will be invited for a vaccination when they come to the UK. So that's now in July. So by the time we get to September, it will be even better again. So it's really making the difference because I'm not a virologist, I'm not a government advisor. Of course, I'm not going to claim to be those things. Please do your own research. But the data seems to be showing that even with what's called Delta variant and the variety of variants, it appears that the vaccines hold those like a fire blanket. And even if case numbers go up, the severity of cases does not go up. And that's why the UK is looking to be further unlocking its restrictions in the next couple of weeks. I think it's July 19th is the big day where everything's going to be pretty much open with sensible precautions, of course, but the understanding of the government even last night announced that they see no reason to delay that further. So the vaccination program has been rolled out kind of quite aggressively in a way, quite hard and quite fast in the UK, and that's made a huge difference.
Hi. Okay, so I have some questions before I continue to ask you my questions. So
I'm so sorry. I just realized I didn't point out that my contact details are here, but also my colleague Jeannie is not on the call this evening. She's doing another event, but she's based in KL. So she works in the University of Plymouth with me, international office with me, but we just have a very long corridor that stretches all the way to KL, and she's at the end of that one. So guys, whoever's watching and listening this evening, reach out to KU and AECC Global because they're fantastic, but also know that Jeannie's a local contact. If you want to talk to someone on your time zone, or you can reach out to me. I forgot to say that before, with apologies. Sorry, Ku.
No problem. Now, I have two questions. I'll go with the first one. So I really want to study maths at Cambridge University. The admissions tutor probably read hundreds of personal statements a day. Pretty sure that is at least the number. And decide who to reject in a few seconds. So when reading personal statement, what do you think capture the attention the fastest? Okay. And on the other hand, what do you think tick them off when they read your personal statements? So how to catch their attentions?
An excellent question. Very, very specific regarding mathematics at Cambridge University. So this applicant is obviously clearly very clever to apply to Cambridge and apply to Cambridge for maths. So good luck with that. It's an excellent question. I can't get into the mindset of other institutions, and I can't get into the mindset of someone at Cambridge who may be reading a personal statement. So I have to be very careful and state that I'm thinking generally rather than specifically, okay? But as someone who himself has read a lot of personal statements, remember what I said about who is perhaps likely to be reading it. They either teach the program or have an admissions connection to that faculty or school who teach that program. So they probably are reading lots of essays connected to the same theme, right? So they're probably not reading a maths essay in the morning and then a French essay in the afternoon and then an engineering one in between. It's probably going to be around a theme. So they probably have an awareness, especially if they teach it, a huge awareness of the subject. So relevance is important. We don't have the space in our personal statements for too much flowers and dressing up and setting scenes. We can't really do that. I've read personal statements from other systems where there's no limit on words, and I've read 8-page essays front and back. Maybe I skim read them a little bit, but the point is they had the luxury to set the scene, but actually that worked against them, because then they were not being concise, they were not editing, they were not really distilling the true essence of them. I can't tell you about a maths essay that you should write because it's your essay, it's your personal statement. It's what maths means to you. It's what maths motivates you and what motivates you about maths. It's what you want to do with maths. It's why you think a particular maths program or type of program will get you there. It's what evidence you've done, it's what activities that you've done or achievements that you've had that prove that. I don't think it's really about the first 2 sentences, but if you're going to start somewhere, start something at the beginning with a proof, maybe one of your better proofs of why you think it's a good fit for you. So remember, I kept saying prove it, relevance, prove relevance. So maybe start with something that really encapsulates your most important bit of proof, whatever that may be, whether it's an award, a project, some kind of shadowing or career experience, whatever it may be. Again, as a non-mathematician, I can't get specific because I wouldn't know. I was a linguist. But I think the element of my point is the same. It has to be relevant, has to be personal. And if you're worried about thinking, well, maybe they'll only read the first 2 lines and throw it away. Well, I don't think they'll do that. I wouldn't think they would do that. But yeah, it makes sense to start strong. So pick out what may be your most defining achievement or point that proves, not just says it, proves it, and start there. Hope that helps.
Okay, hope that helps you. So the next question is, can I study in Malaysia and go over to the UK for final year? I think that will be depending on what sort of courses that you plan to study. Yeah, Daniel. And also, Daniel, do you have any partners in Malaysia that they can do some sort of credit transfer?
Sure. So very much depends on which program of study any given student has interest in. You're exactly right, Ku. So for example, University of Plymouth has quite a strong link with Peninsula up in Penang, and they do a range of our programs up there, which you could then come and join us for final year entry or come on for a master afterwards. But similarly, we have other partnerships around logistics and shipping related programs, and that's with Alam University, Academy Laut Malaysia, but also across in Singapore as well. If you want to stay local but not be in Malaysia, that's another option. It's Singapore Maritime Academy, just to name a couple of examples. That said, there are other things you could do as well. So I think it really is best, if you have a particular program of interest, to reach out to us offline. Don't do that now, but reach out to Ku or reach out to me or to Jeannie, and we'll examine your particular case and see what we can advise you. But yeah, that happens.
Yeah. I would say it's on a case-to-case basis when there's no formal arrangement. So I wouldn't say it's a definite no, but it will be assessed on a case-to-case basis. Yeah. Now, that's the last question so far. Is that whether they could actually get? Oh, there's one more coming in. So that's this question. Well, can they get your slides? I don't even have one. So I think we probably can explain to you if you were to reach out to me or reach out to Eugene. Maybe we can explain to you on a one-to-one basis. But I think these slides will be probably a private thing that Daniel will be using it for your own. Yeah.
Well, yeah, proprietary. I mean, what I'm saying in this presentation is nothing state secret, of course, but I don't like things taken out of context, because if they're misconstrued out of context, it might confuse. So I prefer to maintain, but we have recorded the session. So if people want to watch the session again, then I think that's fine, because then they get it in context. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, the recording version is available, but not so much just the slide, because it can be misleading after a few months when you just look at the keywords and then you forgot what Daniel has probably said in between. Yeah. So there's one more question. Do you think that international student have a lower chance of getting into university in the UK, especially during the COVID-19 situations?
Do I think they have a lower chance of getting into the university? Interesting question. I've never been asked that one before. So congratulations on asking me a brand new question for my poor Friday brain. My hunch is it won't be harder to be accepted. I even suspect that if anything, it might be slightly easier, because I think the reality of the COVID-19 situation is it has delayed some people and made some people reassess their priorities, and they might do things later, or they might still be waiting for their country to open up, of course, because it's not only about what's happening in our country, it's also what's happening in other countries too. So that might delay some people from applying. So those who do apply, who are prepared to come here, I think you probably find it'll be more likely to be accepted, as long, again, as you've done all the things and applied to the right kind of programs, the right kind of institutions, a good fit. I don't think that'll be a problem. Of course, it's a bit different right now. Expectation of campus life is a little bit different. I was on campus just on Friday. We welcomed some international students onto campus who were doing their foundation in the UK. And we actually had visiting international students from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from Thailand, actually visiting our campus on Friday. It was magical to see them again. But of course, campus is a little bit different now, but it's still okay. And I think that students who realize that it's, what are we waiting for? Let's get on with it. I want to get moving forward with my degree. They'll actually find, I think it might be a bit easier this year. That's my hunch.
Yeah, I agree to that too, because there's probably lesser people are applying overseas. So if you're applying and you're willing to travel, you do have a higher chance actually, if you were to ask me. But I can't guarantee you a place, but just feel that that's a way. But of course, looking into flying into the UK, UK do have classified country into green, amber, and red. So Malaysia is currently in the amber zone. So meaning when you go in the UK, you will need to quarantine before you can actually, go out and socialize with your friends. Am I right, Daniel?
Yeah, that's right. And obviously the best thing to do is look at the gov.uk, gov.uk website for all the latest guidance as to what the arrivals process will be. Of course, each institution has an international advisory team working feverishly, probably the wrong word, to look at this information and make sure the latest information gets sent out to our applicants. So we all obviously digest and send out the important messages, but of course that can change, so we're having to send them out again. But essentially some country students would have to quarantine before they can even come to their accommodation, or other countries will be quarantining in their accommodation on location. So that's the main sort of distinction, but that's as it currently stands. We're not in September yet. We're hopeful of further improvements by then. Like I said, I'm not a government scientist or virologist, so I don't know. But the point is, there are plans in place. However it will be this year, I think last year was more difficult. I really do, because so much less was really certain and so much more is known now. And the biggest difference, of course, last year there weren't any vaccines. So there's a huge, huge difference now. And the arrivals process might be different. The settling in process might take a little more time, but that's for 2022, depending on who we're talking to as an audience here, who may be, sorry, that was 2021. For 2022, I imagine it would be far easier again.
Yeah. Agree. Depending when you're going, this year or next year, it will be far different. So another question is, do university in the UK look for all-rounder? And if so, what do you think defines an all-rounder student?
Excellent question. Again, these are good questions for a Friday evening. Congratulations, people. Give yourselves a pat on the back. Well, do we want all-rounders? Yeah, we probably do. What's wrong with an all-rounder, right? That might be quite good, as long as they're all-round good, not kind of all-round meh, right? But are we looking for all-rounders? Well, that's hard to say, because I just spent a good few minutes telling you that you're applying to a program and that you've got a short amount of characters, only 4,000 to write your essay, and we want you to be relevant and focus on the relevant subjects and skills that you have, etc., etc. That almost by definition means that we're not going to find out if you're an all-rounder. It's not that I don't want an all-rounder on campus, or we don't. It's just that we really just want to know, cut to the chase, are you going to succeed in this program? If you can, and you also happen to be an all-rounder, great. That means you'll probably have a fuller student life, and you'll do lots of different things, and that's great. But ultimately, what we just want to know is, are they going to get in? Are they going to succeed and pass and enjoy it and benefit from it? Yeah, I'm not dismissing the all-rounders. I wish I was one, but I'm just not. But I think it's perhaps not our main focus. Of course, that does come out in other areas. In certain fields, we do kind of need all-rounders. For example, in healthcare, we need the brilliant scientific minds, but we also need the creativity of thinking around problems and communication skills that are really important in healthcare settings. And that comes out in our interview, right? So in certain fields, we do need to find out more about you. In those subjects, we would have an interview.
Okay. So is there a general quota that university have for international students? So is there a quota for each programs?
For some programs, yes. For certain medical and healthcare programs, like I was just mentioning a minute ago, yes, there sometimes will be. And so our medicine school is really small, very few places, same for dentistry. And we have a cap or a quota on our nursing and our physiotherapy and our occupational therapy. We have to, because we only have limited places for placement where you're actually working in hospitals and clinical situations. That's why we have a cap. But for most other programs, a lot of universities, indeed most universities, don't actually have an international cap. So for engineering or business or arts or humanities, then no, there's no cap there. It's just they'll have a cap on places, how many people they can fit in their university, but they tend not to stipulate only these amounts can be international. That's more fluid, and that would be the case at Plymouth. It's only really healthcare that we have those limits.
Okay, so a personal questions. So top up to that questions, how many places do you have for medicine? For
6.
6. Okay, thank you. Okay, so what's the most important tips for interview? So if you are called for interview, what sort of tips can you give to students?
Well, I was speaking with one of my Malaysian students last week, or rather she was speaking to some students, some of our applicants, and she was talking about her experience of applying, and she applied for a program which included interview, and she was excellent in her advice. One thing she said, dress to impress, even though you're on a Zoom call. Sounds silly, but it's important. Look the part, look like you care. Then she said, be aware, remind yourself of what you wrote in your personal statement and your application. Don't just write it and then 3 months later, you can't remember what you wrote. So read it, remember it. Remind yourself why you've applied to that institution. Remind yourself of the module contents at that institution. And make sure you've got some good questions for them. Not silly questions that the website already shows, because then that shows you haven't read the website. So ask questions about the program or how it works, or even ask questions about the interviewers, about why they work there and what motivates them in their program, something like that, to show that you actually are genuinely, seriously thinking about studying at that institution. You've given it that time, energy, and thought. If you do that, and of course, be honest, be true to yourself, be you, these things come across well. And these are top tips from a student who's at Plymouth who told me what she did just last week. So.
Okay, thank you. So next questions, do UK University offer any scholarship? And if one more top up, so what sort of scholarship do Plymouth offer?
Okay, yeah, sure. So a lot of UK universities do offer scholarships. Of course, that will be factoring into your narrowing down part of your triangle as to which programs and which universities you're interested in keeping on your list and getting towards your 5 to apply. So it's all part of the cost, really, isn't it? Because whatever your cost of the fee is, of course, if you get a scholarship, it reduces that. So look at those things together, and also look at cost of accommodation, because really it's 3 things together: accommodation cost, realistic living cost, and tuition and scholarship. These are the important strands when we're talking about cost. So yes, a lot of universities do. Their website usually explains whether they do, and if so, what those scholarships are and what you might have to do or to be considered for them. University of Plymouth certainly does as well. In most of our programs, yes, but as with many British universities, they don't offer scholarships in all fields. They tend to offer scholarships in most or many fields, but maybe not all. So it's always worth checking. Our largest scholarships at the University of Plymouth are currently 50% of the tuition fee for the first year, and with additional scholarship opportunities in second and third year if you maintain your grades. That's the biggest scholarships. There are smaller ones too. And they're all based on academic merit.
Wow, 50%, that's quite a lot of saving.
Mm.
Wow, okay. So next one. So students who end their studies in December, but so university, I think the question is how many intakes do you have, you know, if a student finish their studies in December? So I believe some courses is available in January, but very, very few. So it depends on what course that you are planning to study and at what level it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so I understand when some parts of the world students finish in December, they might get their results then and they think, well, program in the UK doesn't start until September, then how? So sometimes you can start in January, some programs do, but like Ku said, not so many. I would look at it a different way. I would flip it a little to say, actually, September comes around soon enough. September is the main start where more programs and more universities and more opportunities. So be prepared to wait until September, but it's not that much to wait, because what you can do, you can apply, you can get an unconditional offer because you've already met your grades. So you're not waiting for results like 90% of the other students, including the British students. You'll know which places are going to offer you. You can therefore confirm your two choices straight away and go unconditional really, really early. You can apply, therefore, for the accommodation earliest and therefore get the best choice of accommodation, because you will be confirming your choice months before the other students can. So that's really, really advantageous. And you can get all your visa prep stuff sorted early too. And even have a bit of downtime with a family, eating your favorite food before you fly away. So I don't really worry so much if you have to wait a while. You can use it to your advantage by getting ahead of the majority of the other applicants for that cycle.
Yeah, I do agree to that as well. You can, you know, while you're having the 9-month gap, it's actually not much of time if you really wanted to go to the UK, because visa applications have to kick in advance. So you can start doing your visa applications even sometime now or slightly later, and you need to sort out your accommodations before maybe June. Yeah, so all this will take time, and in between you can sort out some internships. So like assuming COVID cases are going really well in Malaysia, you can start doing some internship, which is good, you know, before you kickstart your program. So at least you know what you're going for. You have a little relevant to your program if you have done some relevant things in the program. So also bear in mind that, you know, UK is probably the one of the few countries that is open border. So it's worth to wait, because like some other country, 2022, we are not going to even, you know, talk about it, because they are not going to open the border even next year. So if you want face to face, UK will be a good option, even this, not only this year, but even next year. Yeah. So so the next question, are international students allowed to stay in the UK and find employment after graduation? So that will be the postgraduate visa.
Yes, that's the one word answer. The longer answer is just yesterday was the official launch, 1st of July was the official launch of the graduate route visa, which means that, yes, once you've graduated from your degree, you've got a 2-year window of opportunity to stay in the UK and get some work. So, yay. We had it a few years ago, then it went away, but now it is back. And yeah, it's launched, so definitely yes.
Okay, sorry. My next question. Do re-applications every year improve your chance of getting into a uni? Not quite, I think. So if you keep on applying to the same uni every year, does it give you a better chance?
I kind of think not, unless each year that you reapply, you've got something better in your armory, in your experience bank, right? my suspicion is if a student applies to one university again and again and again and keeps not getting in, it's probably because they haven't really found the right fit university or the right fit program for them. They're probably not prepared well, as we we're trying to say before, about ruling some things in, but ruling some things out as unrealistic or unsuitable. So that's my suspicion. And okay, you could say 10 out of 10 for perseverance. If you've improved and improved each year, that may be an opportunity. But I think at the most elite university level, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised.
Okay, so next questions. This is a little off topic, but how do I narrow down what type of course I should take? I really don't know what I like to do, and I'm not comparatively better in any specific subjects. So also just curious, what was your personal experience in finding an interest and the program you were interested in? So
Okay. Well, this one is a very commonly asked question in one way, shape, or form. So whoever you are, first of all, don't panic, right? It's cool. It's completely cool. It happens to lots and lots of students that we just think, well, I don't actually know what I want to do. So this is why in my presentation, I was trying to say, start to sit down and think, and we don't really have the time to get into that in a personal detail now, and I don't know you, but in your own time, do start to write down lists of subjects you like. You don't have to think which is better right now, but just ones you like, okay? And then ask other people what they think, people who know you rather than people who don't know you. And just start there, or just start fishing around at the kinds of degrees that are linked to the subjects that you're currently doing. Maybe not the ones you've thought about doing, but just see the kind of degrees that exist, go to Ucas website, that are linked to the subjects you're currently doing now, and see if that any little light bulb of interest goes on there. But the other thing is, give it time. I don't know what stage you're at in your education right now. I don't know how many years until you're going to apply to university. If you've got 2 or 3 years, then really don't panic. That might come out in the next 2 or 3 years. Even if you're going next year, it's still okay. You asked about my personal experience. Well, when I was applying to university, I did random A-levels. I did French, English, biology, and general studies. And I was hedging my bets even during A-level, because clearly with those subjects, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life. But you know what? I chose those ones because in all absence of other ideas, I thought, well, at least do the ones I like the most. So I did. And then I ended up, as I did that, starting to feel the interest in the languages, particularly French, and then other languages attracted my attention too. So I ended up studying French and Italian at university. So continuing my French and starting another language at the same time. Now, all of that came because I also didn't know what I wanted to do. I also wasn't sure, but I stuck to what I liked and gave myself a bit of time, but used that time to look at what things I could do with those subjects. And then it came to me, because it wasn't just languages for me, it was cinema, history, politics as well, and culture. And that really attracted me. So I think, don't panic, stick to what you do know, start small, find programs that are linked to the subjects that you like, and just start there.
Okay, suddenly some of the question was disappeared. But I think to answer to the last questions, although it wasn't addressed to me, but what I'll do is that if a student come and approach me and doesn't know what they want to do, sometimes we'll say, whether do you like maths? Not bad. Do you want to do physics? Yeah, okay. Then what I'll do is tick off what you don't like.
Yeah.
Look down what you hate the most. Let's say, for example, I hate history. Tick off. If I don't like maths, tick off. Then modern maths, okay, then keep it, right? So based on that, you kind of get able to narrow down, your funnel, what kind of courses you can do, just like what Daniel have shown. That's one way. The other way is we do have some personality tests that we can do it with you. So there's a career test where we can kind of give you a kind of a bit of directions. So from there, we can help you to filter down what sort of courses you can look into. It's also good for you to understand what kind of career life that you will be engaging with, because you guys are kind of Gen Z already. So you have a different expectation of quality of life than what I'm doing now. Correct. So So you'll be looking at maybe, am I looking for a 9 to 5? Am I looking for a 5-day work? Does this career requires me to work on a public holiday, for example? So this kind of thing you can think of sometimes, right? Because like, for example, if I were to work in productions, media, communications, some of the industries, there's no such thing called public holiday. Yeah, because when you're on shoot, when you're doing a video editing, you go by the project deadline. Even Chinese New Year, Malay New Year, sorry, that's not your holiday. All right. So if you say that's very important to me, then maybe it's a off, right? So that's something that we can share with you. So for me, with my 18 years of experience, I normally will kind of scare off some students and say, look, if you're doing this, this is kind of the lifestyle that you'll be, going through the next 20 years, 30 years, unless you do a change of career or you do something different in your master's level and then you do a career switch. So that's something that we always ask students, or you can even look at around people in your family. How does the career life like, and see is that something that you'll be looking at, for the next 20 to 30 years. So that's a bit of my advice. So there's one more question. What if what you're good in is contradictory to what you like? Like, you are great with science, but you love arts. So what can you do?
Okay, well, again, I can't give a fix to every situation because it's not so simple as there's going to be an easy answer to that one, of course. But again, I used my little example. I am interested in all things space. I love watching all the space documentaries where they blow my mind with the capacities of the numbers of the scale of the universe and history of the universe, etc. But I'm rubbish at maths and I'm rubbish at physics. So I know I can't have a career in that. Well, that's okay. I have a career that I really, really love, which is what I do now, which is this. But I still have interest in that. So I read up and lifelong learning, huh? You don't have to just stop when school ends or university ends. So I've been doing my best to learn about these things as life's gone on. But I would urge you to point out to yourself that, yes, you might have to rule certain things out, but you might not have to rule everything out. If there's a science that you're really good at, hopefully you still enjoy it. Because if you're going to go into a career in science or indeed anything, I hope you enjoy it. If you happen to love art as well, that might be your side thing. There will be an art department or an art society or an art club or a designers club in that institution, usually. I mean, we certainly do. So you can even build in some of your hobbies and interests around your degree. But the more important thing is, I don't want you choosing a science degree just because you're good at it. I hope you have to love it too. Because to be good at it, but hate it, would be a weird thing to be studying.
Yeah, that's very true. Make sure you wake up every morning is not Blue Monday. Yeah. So make sure that every morning that you wake up is a happy Friday. So yeah. So there's a question, but it was erased, but I managed to catch that. So is there a minimum age for Ucas applications? Or is there a minimum age to get into a UK university?
Some programs have a minimum age related to healthcare. You've got to be 18 at point of enrollment because of the care setting that you're in, because you're working with people in care settings. So in healthcare programs, there'll be a minimum age of 18. Not so in other programs. It's typically that students who are under 18 can apply and enroll, but they might need a guardian or sort of legal guardianship signed in order for them to enroll. So in that scenario, 17-year-old students have come, and even occasionally younger than 17, so 16. But I also then have to think very carefully and talk with families then about, is it right that a student who's not yet had much life experience is so far away from their comfort zone in another country to be so young? I think we'd have to look into that case by case. But yeah, university application systems will soon find out if they have an age concern, but it's only really on a legal issue rather than we're not trying to exclude people of a certain age. There's certainly no maximum age limit, of course. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's the last question. If there's no more questions from the attendees, from parents and students, I think we have taken about 70 minutes of the time. Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. And dear attendees, it will be good if you there's a survey towards the end when we exit. It will be good to let us know whether you find this workshop is useful. Yeah, so that we can, let us know. We can always have another one, with Daniel. So with another topic. So Daniel, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. Happy Friday, and wish everyone, a good evening and a good coming soon. Tomorrow is EMCO, so everyone stay safe, stay at home, and I hope we can see you, everyone, at all attendees in our office when times are right. Our office are currently closed till when we are safe to operate, but we are always on mobile. So feel free to reach out to us if you need any assistance or clarify any questions pertaining your child or yourself as a student. Please reach out to us. We are more than happy to assist you over the Zoom. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night. I'll be leaving this webinar in 5 seconds.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening and a good
Have a
weekend.
good evening. Thank you. 3, 2, and 1. Thank you. See you, everyone.